So, Emma, what would you love to have happen as a result of this session, or what would you love? What can I work on with you?
I'd love to be able to, kind of what Matt said. In my previous roles, I was in sales as well, and I believed in a product I was selling in, and I loved it. It was established. It was fine. I could do that. With the sport that I do a lot of gymnastics. I'm confident I can do that. Setting out on my own, this is something I've wanted to do for 9 years, and I'm terrified I'll fail. I'm terrified nobody will want to work with me or want to pay the amount of money I want to charge. And because of that, I'm putting up lots of barriers and procrastinating. And I just don't feel I can do it.
So just keep breathing. So I've let me get the interesting news out of the way. You could fail. That can definitely happen. That definitely happens to people around the world. Lots of businesses fail. Lots of people set out to become coaches or change workers, and it doesn't work out. So that can definitely happen. That was the first thing. Well, actually, let's talk about that. See, I don't think the issue is that you might fail, or that might not get the results you want, or it might not work out in the way that you imagine it working out. That can happen in at least some domains. It almost certainly will happen. You know, like you might think, okay, I'm going to launch this, and you try it and it doesn't work, or you do it, and you end up doing something else. But I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is, but check it out with me. I think the issue is that if things weren't to work out the way you want them to, you don't think you'd be able to handle it.
Yeah, that's probably correct, I would think.
Well, just check. I mean, I don't need to be. You don't need to. I'm calibrating, so I want to find out what's going on, but I don't want to tell you what's going on. I'm just giving you. This is my guess at what's going on.
Yeah, I've not succeeded at things before, and it's been fine. But because this is so important to me, if it didn't work out the way I'm anticipating, the way I'd like it to, I'd be devastated, I think.
Well, maybe. Like, it might be disappointing and upsetting at first. Like, I know when I want things to work out, like, it's interesting. Ever since I was a kid, I imagine things working out a certain way, and I get really, really excited about it, and then when they don't, I'm gutted, temporarily. But do you think that if it didn't work out the way you're imagining, that that could actually do you any lasting damage?
If I look at it logically, no.
What if you look at it illogically, though? I'm talking about, and by illogically, all I mean is, I'm not looking for you to toe the party line on this. I'm looking for you, like, how does it seem to you? Like, it sounds like it seems to you like it could really mess with you. It could fuck you up.
Yeah, to me, it feels monumental.
Breathe, breathe, breathe. Can I ask you a tiny favor?
Sure.
Can you leave that end of the microphone
sorry.
alone? No, it's okay. You wouldn't know, but that's an antenna, and
okay.
so.
That would cause issues.
So yeah, breathe. Because I get it. It feels absolutely monumental. Keep breathing. And see, that's honest. Like, I got no problem with us coming kind of face to face with the fact that whatever may seem logical It's really interesting. So I was working with I know it's very compelling, isn't it? I was working with a guy, this was on Clarity Coach Training, working with him at the front of the room. And we were talking about this stuff, and he came up to me afterwards. He said, Jamie, he's trained as a coach. He said, I noticed that when you're talking to me about my goals, you were saying, if you achieve them. He goes, as a good coach, you should be saying, you will achieve them. Definitely. I'm like, that's not reality to me. In reality, see, I don't think the issue is that things might not work out the way you want them to, or people might not want a specific package that you offer, or they may not agree your fees, or whatever. All of those things are things that can absolutely happen. That's just reality. However, the idea that any of those eventualities could do you any damage whatsoever, that's not real. And it looks real, it seems real, it feels real. So that's something to talk about. And well, let me ask you, like, is it when the monumentalness of it? Is it like, does it feel frightening? Well, you said terrified,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let me ask you a question. And this is again an honest answer, just what it seems like to you. Where does it seem to you like that experience of terror is coming from?
It's definitely coming from within.
Well, the feeling's coming from within, absolutely. Yeah. But where does it seem like it's coming from? Like, is it, if you can hold the microphone quite near, where does it seem like it's coming from? Does it seem like, I'll give you some examples. From the past, from the future, from other people, from your personality,
From the past and from other people.
Okay, not from the future?
No.
Oh, well, so if things were to go completely tits up, when would that be happening?
Well, in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting that it doesn't seem like it's coming from there. Now, that was just a guess on my part, so I'm glad I checked it out with you. So from the past and from other people. So here's my assertion, and I want you to check it out. That feeling of terror isn't letting you know about the past. It's not letting you know about other people. It's not letting you know about Life Acrobat or your coaching practice. It's not letting you know about any of that. Your feelings don't even know that the past and other people and your business exist. Your feelings only know about one thing.
The future?
No, your feelings don't know about the future at all.
Okay.
Your feelings know about your psychology in the moment. That's what your feelings are for. They're giving you moment-to-moment, real-time feedback. Like, here's how I think about it. Like, have you ever had the thing where you're feeling really worried about something, you end up going to sleep, and you wake up the next morning, you're like, what was I fucking worried about? It's fine. You've had that, right?
Yeah.
Now, the thing didn't change, did it? The situation, the whatever. It was still the same situation it was before you went to bed.
It's still the same.
What changed was your perception. Now, your perception is always changing because your perception is being made up using the power of thought, moment to moment to moment. When your perception changes, your feelings change. Now, your feelings, their job is to give you real-time, moment-to-moment feedback on your perception in that moment. That's what your feelings know about. You know what they don't know about? Anything else.
Yeah.
So we'll wait, just a simple metaphor for it is your perception in any moment is the goggles that you're wearing. And your feelings job is to tell you about the goggles. But the goggles give you the impression that your feelings are telling you about whatever you're looking at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense.
Now, what did you hear that made sense, that makes sense to you? Can you hold that in front of your
sorry.
mouth? Thank you. No, it's okay.
The feelings and the goggles, it's, how did you say it? It's what I think that I'm feeling what I'm seeing, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep breathing. That's exactly it. Like your feelings are giving you real-time information about your psychology in that moment. And nothing else. So here's the things that your feelings don't know about. So here's Emma. Your feelings know about the goggles you're wearing. What they don't know about is the past, the future, other people, other people's thinking. Your feelings don't know about you, your personality. They don't know about your skills. They don't know what you're capable of. It's not their job. What else don't they know about? They don't know about your shortcomings. We've all got shortcomings, right? Things we don't know how to do, things with blind spots. Your feelings don't know, they don't know about your bank balance. They don't know about clients. Your feelings don't know anything about business or anything like that. Your feelings are an expert on one thing. Do you have anyone in your life who's an expert on one thing, like they're a tax advisor but they're clueless about anything else, or they're a lawyer? Yeah, well, your feelings are like that. They're an expert on one thing and they're clueless about everything else. The one thing that your feelings are an expert on is thought in the moment. The goggles you're wearing. Okay? Now, I've explored this from every possible angle. I haven't found a single exception. And I'll invite people later to come up with exceptions, but I haven't managed to find one. And I've had people come up with countless things that looked like exceptions, and none of them turned out to be exceptions. So what do you mean? Go ahead.
I was going to say, so how I feel with my lack of confidence, lack of self-belief, it is just a thought in the moment.
Well, I'm not saying it's a thought. It's a slight, let me give you a slightly different frame. Like if you hold up your hand like this and then drop it, gravity did that, right? Made your hand go down, okay? So as soon as you released it, if you hold a beach ball underwater and take your hand off it, what happens? That's gravity too. We call it buoyancy, but it's actually gravity pressing the water down and the beach ball comes up. So we're walking around in gravity all the time. And gravity doesn't know that was your hand. Gravity's just doing the gravity thing. Well, when I'm talking about the principle of thought, I'm talking about the power that exists in every one of us, that comes through every one of us, the power to create an experience of reality, to create a perceptual reality that we experience as real. And this is kind of weird, okay? Because you look around the room, you can see a room, you can see people, all that sort of stuff. But 100% of that perception of the room is being generated from within your mind. okay? Now, I'm not saying there aren't people in a room here. I'm absolutely convinced there are, absolutely. But 100% of your experience of everyone in this room and the room itself and mine is being generated from within us. So you're generating an experience, a 3D virtual reality experience, and so am I, and so is everyone in here. We're all doing that. And it looks to us like we're walking around in the same shared perceptual experience, but actually we're each generating an independent one. Now, we've got live data feeds. So the reality that each of us generates, the perceptual reality, is at least good enough has at least good enough fit and match to reality that we don't go bumping into each other all the time. Sometimes we do, okay? But that power, that ability to create the perception of the room and all the people and of your own body and all of that stuff, that's running moment to moment within you, okay? And it doesn't look like that's what's happening, does it?
No.
It looks like you're looking out at your eyes at a room full of people. For practical purposes, you are. But how that works is it's a live, it's an internally generated 3D perceptual reality. Like, see all the people on that screen there?
Yep.
Now, that's actually a trick of the mind. Those are actually pixels, okay? All those people that you can see, they're actually sitting behind cameras in different parts of the world. And then an image of their... Now, I know you know this, but actually, when we interact with people, we act as though that's not what's happening. Well, it's the same with our perceptual reality. We generate it from within, and then we act as though what we're seeing is experiencing is what's really out there. So we're doing that moment to moment, and that power to internally generate a perceptual experience that we experience as real. That's what I call the power of thought, and that's what I mean by the goggles you're wearing, okay? And we're always walking around in an internally generated perceptual reality. And because it's being generated moment from moment, it's a variable. It's a variable. It varies, which is why you can go to sleep one night being all worried, and you wake up the next morning, and you're like, oh, what was I even worried about? It's cool. I'm going to rock it, whatever. Well, external reality didn't change. What changed was you woke up in a different mood, okay? So the feeling last night wasn't telling you about reality. It was telling you about thought in the moment. It was talking about the goggles, letting you know about the goggles you're wearing. You wake up in the morning, your feelings are letting you know about the goggles you're wearing. So what do you make of that?
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's my perception that's changing, and my perception of the world around me is going to be slightly different to other people's.
Or massively different.
Or massively different, assuming everyone still sees everyone else in the room. So the fact that I may not feel confident, that's my perception of the moment that I'm in. But other people may not see that, or they may look at me and not, obviously they're not experiencing the same that I'm experiencing. So it is internally generated, and it's something I have control over.
I don't know about that. I was with you right up till there. Like, could you, if you could control it, then I guess you could say, okay, at 1:30, I'm going to feel a sense of whimsy.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Or you could just decide to feel a sense of whimsy. But, I don't think you control it, but here's what I found, Emma. Understanding how your mind works and what you've got going for you is infinitely more valuable than being able to control how you feel, because your feelings are giving you valuable real-time information about the perceptual reality that you're walking around in. So for instance, if we had, it's Saturday in London, so tonight there will be drunk people around. You can pretty much count on it. Now at 11 o'clock, if we found two guys, both of the same height, build, general intelligence, and education, they're also both very intoxicated, okay? The only difference between the two guys is one of them knows that he's drunk and the other one doesn't. Who's more dangerous?
The one that knows that he's drunk.
I would say it's the other one. The person who doesn't know he's drunk.
Oh, that's true, actually, yeah, because he thinks he's living in his normal reality, and he could, for example, go and get in a car because he doesn't realise he's drunk, therefore he could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to suggest that our emotions is really, like they're giving us really, really valuable feedback. I'll give you a Jamie example. A Jamie example is, I sometimes get really frustrated or angry. Now, to me, if I'm feeling angry, I feel very intelligent, okay? Do you think I actually get more intelligent when I feel angry? No. No. My IQ plummets when I get angry. But I feel very, very bright when I'm angry. So it's really useful for me to know that I'm angry at the moment, so I'm probably not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
So the feedback of feelings is giving me really, really valuable, useful, real-time information. So if I get in there and I'm trying to change them, it's like, no. These are exactly these are useful. They're giving you useful information that lets you know about something that's actually happening. It's valuable.
Okay.
Now, what do you make of all that? Because I'm going to make a guess, but it might not be a good guess. My guess is you're trying to figure this out and how it's going to help you.
Spot on.
Yeah, I'm a pretty good guesser. So keep breathing, okay? I'm going to talk to these guys for a second. So you see, I make lots of guesses when I'm coaching people, because what I'm trying to do when I'm working with a client is I'm trying to calibrate what's going on. I'm trying to get on the same page with them. And the reason I'm trying to get on the same page with them is because I want to find my way into a feeling of connection with them. Now, Emma and I have got quite a nice connection at the moment. It's a little bit kind of like this. We're still kind of in and out, and I can see Emma's going up into her head and then back into the moment, back and forth, and that sort of thing. I'm cool with that. I'm just kind of tracking that. And then what I'll do at certain points is I'll have a go at a little bit of education. Now, I use the word education. The reason I chose the word education for this is because the word education comes from the Latin educe, to lead out from within. So again, the thing that's going to help Emma isn't my descriptions or ideas or any of that stuff. That stuff's of no use to anyone. The thing that's going to do something for Emma is going to be something she realizes from within herself. And it's not going to be something she does. It's going to be something that happens, like an aha or an epiphany, a light bulb moment, okay, an insight. So that I see my job as basically helping create the conditions for my client to have an epiphany, for my client to have a realization, for my client to have an aha that does something for them. Not to give them a bunch of facts that they can trot out, but rather to see something that's already true about themselves, that's already true about life. it's already true about what's been going on for them. So they're like, oh, I get it. So that's what I want for my client. Now, I can't make that happen. All I can do is make it as easy as possible to create the conditions where there's as little getting in the way of that happening as possible. And then the insight or realization or whatever comes on its own time. So again, I'm just trying to feel the connection. So what I noticed is just now, Emma relaxed, and I feel more connected to her. So I'm going to leave you guys alone for a bit. I'm going to go back and work with her a little more. What just happened?
I think that I've been listening to you, but I've been trying to give answers that you want to hear, whereas now I'm just like, well, you know what, I'm just going to be me.
Bingo. Yeah, of course, and that's great, because my desire is just to support you in whatever way I can. And we've got our best bet at that happening if we're connected and real and honest.
I'll
and
let
that's
my-
beautiful. Yeah. Like we're all in the same boat here, you know? Breathe. Yeah, we're all in the same boat. It's okay. Just keep breathing. I have only one rule.
Breathe.
Yeah, just breathe. And the thing is, the reason that's my only rule is that it's the only thing we need to add in is oxygen for you to be able to see what you need to see, and hear what you need to hear, and feel what you need to feel. Keep breathing now. And it's almost instinctive to kind of armor ourselves against perceived threat. And so it's really important to me that I let you know that you're totally safe, like I'll totally take care of what's going on out here, so you can just relax and be yourself. And you know, my experience is, Emma, that it takes a lot of energy to put up a front, you know? And there's this poem that I just love by my favorite Sufi poet, Hafiz. He's got this poem called A Cushion for Your Head. And he says, I can never remember it, but it goes something like this. He says, just stop, relax, don't do a thing, because your separation from God, from love, is the hardest work in this world. And the good news is we're never really separated from God, from love, from life. We just think we are.
And the more you push, the harder it is. And the more exhausted you become.
Ain't that the truth? The thing I love about this, Emma, is I already feel just so much closer to you. Can you feel that? Yeah, it's
Very
real
much.
different, isn't it? So that's what I'm, in my experience, that depth of connection is like the transformation superhighway. Yeah. And so in the next few minutes, I'll probably like ask you some questions or something, or talk to you about something. But right now, I almost feel like as long as you're willing to keep breathing, we could just hang out here for 5-10 minutes, and it's just like I almost feel like my sense is, and it's funny, you and I haven't talked about this at all, but my sense is you've been working so hard. Okay, breathe. Now that hard work may have taken the form of procrastination or distraction or coloring in your exam timetable or whatever. But it's been heavy fucking lifting. Yeah. Just keep breathing. So first thing I want you to know, I want to tell you a story. Years ago this is like 2004, so whatever that was, 14 years ago. I'd hired a coach once before for 2 hours, and then I hired another coach. This time I hired a coach for 3 hours in one go. And I took a train to where he lived, like a 3-hour train journey. And at the time I was feeling under incredible pressure. Pressure to succeed, pressure not to fail, like just incredible amounts of pressure. And so I had booked this session with this guy, and I was desperate that it work. Okay, so I got to his place, and I went in, and he made me a cup of tea, and we went to his office, and we sat down. And he said, "So what can I do for you?" And I said, "Well, I've come all this way, I've paid all this money, and I need this to work because I'm so fucked, and I need this to work, and da 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 da." And he listens to me, and then when I'm finished, he goes, "Well, I don't need anything from you," he said. He goes, "And I don't need you to change anything or achieve anything. I don't even need this to work." He goes, "I'll just write you a check at the end of it." He goes, "I don't need anything." And I burst into tears. And all of a sudden I just felt so much more relaxed, because I hadn't realized that I was creating all that tension and pressure. I didn't realize, oh, you've been doing it to yourself. I didn't know that until I knew it. It had genuinely seemed like it was coming from my circumstances and from my own frailties and from my expectations and from other people and from the past and from my personality. It seemed like it was coming from all those places, and it was such a profound shift that it didn't even occur to me to wonder about if things could suddenly be so different. What the hell's that about? So here's my instinct. If it's okay with you, Emma, what I'd like to do is just to pause for lunch. But I would love for you to have a very chilled lunch. Like to not have to this session is to be continued, but I don't want you, do you notice how earlier you were kind of up in your head trying to figure things out, and now you're kind of on the beach, so to speak? And
Definitely.
would you be willing to stay in that kind of just to, if you find yourself being tempted to go back up into, just to go, breathe. Does that seem fair enough?
Definitely. Plus I like the beach.
Beautiful. Thank you.
you.
Oh, it's lovely working with you. Give everyone, Emma, give everyone a big round of applause. All right. So I'd also love to hear from Emma. So do you want to join me back at the front again, Emma? And now here's the thing, before Emma joins me, I made a point of not checking in with Emma after she got back to lunch, so I don't know what she's going to say, so we'll find out. But at least Emma knows she doesn't have to be on best behavior and saying what I want to hear and that sort of thing. So come on back up. Give Emma a big round of applause. So Emma, how's it going? since we had our conversation before lunch?
Really, really interesting. Straight afterwards, I first felt, physically, I felt wobbly, I felt achy, and then I got this huge sense of relief that it's okay to be me. And all the fighting, all the pushing, all the trying to make things work that I've been doing over probably the last year, I don't need to do that. I can just be me, and it will be all right. And any fear, any lack of confidence I have in that moment, it is just in that given moment, and it will pass, exactly as you said, when you go to bed and you're stressing about something and then you wake up in the morning and it's okay. Yeah. So thank you.
Beautiful. That's lovely. Now, are you okay if people ask questions?
Sure.
Now, what I'm going to ask is that you guys ask the questions to me, and then I'll relay anything that's for Emma to Emma. I've got my own reasons for that, and I'll explain afterwards. But anyone got any questions about Emma's experience or what I was doing with Emma or what I was aiming for? I'll unpack it for you guys anyway, but is there anything that's kind of going like one of the questions is, how the fuck did that happen? Like, you didn't even tell her to believe in herself or anything. Like, how did that happen? So I can answer that one, but what's your sense? Anything you'd like to know relating to the session we did? Yeah, Julie.
Yes, one of the things that I observed about the coaching session was that a number of times, Jamie, you encouraged Emma to speak openly about what she was actually thinking and not give you an answer that you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And I think you said it a few times, and I couldn't quite work out where that was going. But then Emma came back and, sort of towards the end of the piece before lunch and said, I've just decided to be completely open. I was just trying to give you the answers that I thought you wanted to hear. So I'm really interested in, what was your sort of, how did you come to say those things?
Okay, so there's two things.
What were the clues for you?
Yeah, so there's two things. The first of all is the feeling that I'm in with the person. So I can, is interesting. When I first started getting into this stuff, so this is like a decade ago, I didn't used to feel connected to anybody. I was very up in my head. I was good at getting into rapport with people because I've always been like a good read and that sort of thing. But I never used to actually feel connected. When I started feeling more connected with myself, I started feeling more connected with other people. And at a certain point, I just decided to become a connoisseur of the experience of connection. I love the feeling of connection. And I'm very alert to it, not in a kind of hyper vigilant way, but like I can tell when I'm feeling really connected to someone. I can tell when I'm feeling very disconnected from someone, but I can also tell where I am in the kind of middle zone. Like, what I noticed with Emma was that I was feeling connected to her, but it was like there was static on the radio in the middle of it. So that I knew there was something going on. And also, like, the stuff that I talk to people about, it's pretty weird, right? Like, it's not that normal. So when I hear people playing back to me the things that I've said, but kind of faltering, like they're trying to get the right answer rather than just calling it how they see it, like I can see that a mile off. And that's it's really understandable as well, right? Like, I'm in this teacher role and authority role. So people will, and you'll find as well when you're doing one-to-one work with people, some clients are very, very happy to say, this is how I'm seeing it, and like, no, I'm not satisfied, and I want this or that and the other. But other people are more at the far end of the spectrum where they're wanting to please their coach or please the person who's helping them or whatever it might be, which is fine too. But when someone's kind of trying to get the right answer or whatever, that's in the domain of information. That's not in the domain of transformation. So I don't have any issue with it. I just kind of notice it, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's see where we're going with this. But here's the interesting thing. Me having said that a couple of times, I don't even remember saying, well, I sort of do, but me having said that a couple of times isn't what had Emma fall out of it. She fell out of it when I kind of took the spotlight off her and came and started to talking to you guys. It gave her a chance to reflect and that sort of thing, and then she kind of relaxed. Because I felt something shift. But again, a lot of what so we talked about calibration, connection, and education. A lot of my calibration is happening. So I'm noticing how people's appearance looks, like the way the expressions they make. If I say, so blah, 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 and they go, then I notice that. I'm like, oh, so I'm noticing their voice and the way they're talking and the stuff they're saying. And so, like, there's a big difference between me saying something to someone. I said, does that make sense? And there's a big difference between someone going, yeah, that totally makes sense. Someone going, yeah, that makes sense. Right? Like, there's just a world of difference between those two. So I'm really noticing that. But then I'm noticing the feeling. Now, I'm noticing the feeling, the space that I'm in, but I'm also sensitive to my guesses about the feeling space that my client is in. I say guesses, like I feel it in my own body, but it's still, everything I'm feeling is coming from me. But just like if I see someone waving at me, that visual is coming from within my perception, but I've still got senses. Yeah. So it was all of that at once, just had me have that sense of there's something a little bit getting in the way, which is fine. Of course, the person, when you're working with someone, they'll do the thing that they're always doing. So Emma was very kindly demonstrating to me how she had been getting in her own way. So that's how it looks to me anyway. But Emma, do you want to give your take on your side of that? Thanks, John.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with what you've said, Jamie. I put up barriers completely, and I do that a lot, and I put up barriers
until now.
Until now, I've always put up barriers. I'm incredibly competitive with myself, and I constantly berate myself for not being good enough at what I do, which then prevents me from moving forwards. So I didn't mean to have barriers up with you, but sure. I did. And in my head, I'm like, okay, so what do I need to say? What's the correct answer? I don't want this to fail. I need this to work. And obviously that's making the situation worse because I'm kind of pushing against it as opposed to relaxing into it.
And so here's another, yeah, totally. And so another example, it just occurred to, I didn't know all that was I couldn't have told you what the content, like the stuff that Emma's just told us, constantly berating myself, competitive with myself, putting on barriers, I couldn't have given you that content. But as I was talking to her, it occurs to me to tell this story about this time that I went to see a coach and I had all this pressure on myself and couldn't, all that stuff. Well, guess what? I just discovered just now that was the perfect story. But I didn't know that. It was just like, this is, and if you had stopped me and asked, why are you telling this story rather than some other story, I probably couldn't have told you. Like maybe I would have made up a story about why I was telling that story. But now that I hear what Emma said, I'm like, oh yeah, great. But here's the thing, that didn't come from up here. That came from me being having little enough on my mind that I picked up the subtle threads that were coming through on some level, like I wasn't conscious of it. So my leverage as a coach is coming from two things. Well, three maybe. We could stretch it to three. I'm going to say two for starters. Number one, it's coming from my clarity of understanding about how the mind works. Like the stuff that I'm certain of about how people's experience is created and that sort of thing, it's like I know a little bit about, like I've got a couple of things where I hang my hat. I got nothing else. I'm not working on theories of personality or, whatever. I've just got, like, I know this one thing about how people work. So, but I really, I just looked at it again and again and deeper and deeper. So I understand that. So I got that. And in the moment, sitting with my client, I've got a relatively clear head. I'm not thinking about, oh, like for a lot of people, say, okay, you're going to coach someone in front of the room. They'd be like, oh God, what if I screw up? Well, I got none of that going on. It's like, what if I screw up? Well, I guess you'll screw up. It's like, okay, I'm down with that. So I'm not thinking about it at all. I know for whatever reason, it really helps me out to be entirely unconcerned with my own performance, with how my client does, with any of that. And I really care about my client, but because I know how they work, I also know it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine. We're going to get, so I've got that. Now, if I was to add a third thing, Julie, connection. I can feel when I'm a little bit connected with someone. I can feel when I'm super connected with someone. And we went from not that connected, like in and out, a nice feeling, but static on the radio, to the last 5-10 minutes of our session. Like I didn't even want to talk. I felt so connected to Emma that I would have been happy to sit there for an hour and not say a word. It was so peaceful and rich and nourishing. As I sat here with Emma, it was doing me good to feel that connected, to feel that clear-minded, to be that in touch with the bounty of life, with the abundance of life. All I've got is metaphors for it, but it really felt good, okay? And that's there in everyone. Like that's there in everyone because it's not personal. That didn't come from Emma's personality. It came from the intelligence of life that's already there within every human being, every minute of your whole life. And the only thing that ever gets in the way of that is contaminated thinking arising from a misunderstanding of how our minds work. So Emma fell out of that misunderstanding and into reality. And once she was hanging out in reality with me, it was really nice. And then she comes up with all this stuff. Like if we had got together after she told us what was up at the beginning of the first session, she had told us what was up, and then we said, okay, Emma, you leave the room, we're going to have a brainstorm. We came up with a brainstorm. We might have said, if I said, what does Emma need to know? We would have said things like, well, just be yourself and do what makes sense to you and don't put so much pressure on yourself. And we would have come up with a whole list of stuff, right? But I didn't suggest any of that stuff to her. I didn't make any suggestions about how she should conduct herself, what would be the right way to think going forward, what would be a good idea to help be more, compelling to her clients or more resilient. I didn't give her any good ideas at all. Didn't give her a single good idea. And then Emma rocks up after lunch and she's like, well, here's what I realized. Boom, 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 boom. The whole list of stuff that we would have given her if we were coming up with a prescription for better living. Well, here's what I'm suggesting. That context-sensitive intelligence that can show up in a way that's unique and precisely fitted for the person in their life is there within every single human being. And I promise you, no one needs Jamie Smart's advice on how to live a good life. All they need is to wake up to the intelligence and guidance that's already there within every single human being. And they'll know what to do. So, that old idea you hear in lots of, psychologies and stuff, people have all the resources they need? I actually believe it. a lot of people, you hear them say that and then say, now here's what you need to do, here's how you need to think, it's like, whoa, 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 what about they have all the resources they need, right? Like, I believe that so completely, so fully, that it wouldn't occur to me to have advised Emma on any of those things. I mean, unless it did. It might have occurred to me, but it's just not how I'm orienting myself. So because I don't need to come up with any good advice for someone, or any of that stuff, I'm not devoting any attention to, what should she do? I don't fucking know. Like, I only just met her. How am I gonna know? She's been living with herself her whole life, and she's confused about how am I gonna help? I'd much rather get her in touch with that context-sensitive, tailored and personalized source of intelligence that's there within her. So that's my take on it.
And to be honest, I think if you guys had brainstormed and got together and come up with a prescription, it would be more information as opposed to transformation. And I just would have gone, oh, well, that's nice, but it doesn't apply to me. Whereas coming up with it myself, so to speak, I actually believe it. And trust me, like 2 hours ago, there's no way I would have sat here with a microphone in front of you guys feeling comfortable telling you this, because I don't do public speaking at all. So, but I'm really, I'm really happy doing this. It's really odd.
That there, what Emma just said, is the essence of why this approach looks so, like, some people are great at taking advice. I literally, you can't give me advice. I'm like I want, so people are always telling me what I ought to do. I won't do it. I just won't. Maybe it's because I'm, bullheaded or something, but whatever. I find that in the areas where people are most struggling, most stuck, most insecure, whatever, that's the last place where they'll take any advice. So, yeah, what Emma just said, it's actually, Gita, can you make a time note of it? Because what Emma just said is so, looks to me like the essence of this, and I really want to just you said it more clearly than I could have. Any other questions? Yeah, Damien.
I guess it's a question for Emma, really, but I'll direct it to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm talking to the judge. What was the role of Jamie's story in coming to the sort of transformation that appears like you've gone through? You can see it in your body. What was the role? What part did it play?
Well, let me try and answer that first, then we'll see what Emma said. I can tell you why I told that story. It just felt like a relevant story to tell. Yeah. But it also felt like a way to give Emma some to kind of take the pressure off. I noticed, it's interesting that Emma just said that she had been putting herself under a lot of pressure. My instinct a lot of the way through the session was to make it easy for Emma to engage without feeling like she was under any pressure. That's why I stood up and talked to you guys. Now I wouldn't have put it like that, but having heard her say that, it's like, oh, okay, let's do this in a way that doesn't require her to come up with answers or show she knows answers or anything like that. It just allows her to relate to something. So that's why I did it. Emma, do you want to, what's your...
Again, I would agree. Yeah, I knew in advance that we were going to do this coaching, and I was a little bit anxious about it, and also, how can this possibly work? I mean, I've read Jamie's book Clarity last year, but now felt right to come on a course for TCB, and And yeah, so it's not that I built everything up into a big expectation. I didn't think I had into expectation, but maybe I did in my head, and I kind of put this barrier up. And with everyone sat in the room, with people I've never met before, and I was like, oh, there's got to be a right answer here. I don't want to let Jamie down and give incorrect answers. I don't want to let myself down. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We're directing your attention on everyone else. I was like, oh, okay, good. And it just gave me the chance to relax, which I'm also not very good at, and breathe, and yeah, just take the pressure off myself. And then when I took that pressure off, it's going to sound so cheesy, the clarity came, to coin your phrase, but it
Clues
did.
in the name. Yeah, but that's beautiful, because that's the thing. When my assertion, anyway, is that that clarity is such a natural and ever-present state, and whatever flavor of it is right for the moment, whether it's love, connection, peace, inspiration, whatever, is so present in every human being that you literally, it's like a hand holding a beach ball underwater. You just got to take your hand off it for a second and the thing pops up to the surface. Well, Emma had her, when it comes to the stuff that we'd been talking about, she'd had her hand on that fucking beach ball for God knows how long, right? 9 years, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so that beach ball is just sitting there patiently. I was just creating an opportunity for her to take her hand off so it could pop up to the surface, and boom, there it is.
And I think we have so many external influences, people giving us their opinions of how we should be, how we should act, what we should do, that can add to the pressure that you're feeling as an individual. And you're constantly thinking, well, when it's coming to my own practice, I'm like, well, should I be doing it this way? Should I do that? Should I charge this amount? Should I? And it's continuously conflicting advice. And then it's the realization that it is actually okay to do it your own way and be you and be true to yourself. And then I think you'll get better results from your clients as well, because you said you'll be better connected to them. And yeah, and when you're relaxed and in a good space, the people that you're working with and trying to support will be as well, because they'll feed off you.
Beautiful. John, then Karen. How you doing, John?
Doing great. This is it's wonderful to see what you're doing. It's beautiful. What I was wondering about is a small thing. I notice every so often you reach over and touch Emma. I'm not sure I imagine all this is just what feels good in the moment and what your intuition's telling you. So how does that play into all this?
Yeah. So anyone who's been involved in NLP before will be familiar with the concept of anchoring, which is, using touches and things to anchor certain states. If you ever watch any videos of me coaching people, what you'll discover is that there is no discernible pattern, rhyme, reason, or systemic. The only thing I'm aware of consciously is that at certain points, I want to literally, if I'm sitting next to a client, I want to literally make a physical connection with my client. Now, sometimes I'll use that in a comforting way. Sometimes I'll use it when I'm interrupting someone. I'll use it to interrupt. I'll be like, just a second. Or sometimes I'll use it to let them know that I'm still paying attention to them while I'm talking to the group. So I use it in a variety of ways. So I just said there's no discernible pattern. There probably is a discernible pattern. But here's what I'm not doing. I'm not, at least not in any explicit way that I'm aware of, I'm not trying to connect touch to states, which is the kind of the NLP aspect of it. I'm doing something that's much more about, I don't like this phrase, but I'm going to use it, holding the space for my client. I'm like letting them, so like while I'm talking to you, I'm letting Emma know that she's still included. It's a much more physical thing than it is an attempt to anchor certain feelings and that sort of thing. So in terms of emotional patterns, it's completely There doesn't seem to be any discernible pattern to it. Or if there is, feel free to tell me. I haven't managed to discern one. Yeah.
How did it feel for you, Emma? Did you notice any of that?
For me, it just felt like reassurance, and that was important. It was it's the touch. It's kind of like, it's okay. This is your space, and even when you're going off and talking to the rest of the room, it's, as you said, it's like, it's okay. I'm going to come back to you. It is just reassurance.
Mm-hmm. And here's the interesting thing, John. If I'm reaching out to touch someone and they go, then I don't. Once in a while, I'll be with someone, but remember, calibration. So I'm noticing if someone's touch phobic, for instance, if they see you start moving your hand towards them, they're like, and so I won't do it. So it's just about noticing. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Karen.
Following on from that and from what Emma said about...
Can you just stand up so the folks in live stream can see you?
Oh, hi. But then I can't...
Well, you can still face this way, but
Okay,
at least
then
they can see the back of your head.
Oh, great. So following on from, and also what you've just said about the feeling, when you were working together, I don't know why, I don't normally look for these kind of things, but it was so obvious how your body language changed. It was
Oh, really?
It was straight out of NLP textbook. I mean, by the end, you were both on the sofa, completely mirroring each other.
Yeah.
And you were saying about, calibration. And there are times when you just get really slow and really quiet, and we're all following you down. Are there times when you're not, say, Emma starting to slow down and you're thinking, all right, here we go, we're getting there now. Are there times when you're able to, or thinking, I'm just going to slow this down now because she needs to slow down?
Not consciously, and it's not my orientation to it. It's a great question, Karen. I'm not, and this is really cool, actually. I think part of the power of what I'm doing with the person, I'm not trying to get anywhere with them. I'm not trying to, I've got the direction, which is I want to, the place where Emma and I ended up, that's where I wanted to end up with her, okay? But I don't have any idea how we're going to get there. I really don't. Like, aside from during a conversation, it's going to happen during a conversation. But I don't want to say, okay, we'll go this way, because that might not be the right way. I don't know. So I'll notice where we're at, but I'm not trying to drive where it's at. Now, there's an exception to that, which is sometimes if I notice that I'm feeling all jangled up and high speed and that the other person is kind of, yeah, but Jamie, sometimes I'll be like, whoa, 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 yeah, deep breath, come on, hang on a second, hang on. So if someone's getting really agitated, sometimes I'll just, throw a blanket on it, so to speak. But that's typically only when it's super extreme. The rest of the time, my friend Joe calls it leading from one step behind. I'm seeing where we go, and then I'm just not doing anything to stop us going in that direction. So it's very subtle. It's very subtle, but if I suddenly get slow and quiet, it's because the feeling I've dropped into inside is a feeling that's so slow and quiet that it wouldn't occur to me to be like blah 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 blah. But then I might be there, and then all of a sudden I might stand up and do something else, take things in a different direction. So but I remember Milton Erickson quote. He said, "I never have any resistant clients because I never try to get anyone to do anything in particular." And that really struck me. I never have any resistant clients because I'm never trying to get them to do anything. A buddy of mine once said, he asked me to do some one-to-one work with him because he'd been struggling with something. And this guy was very, very, funnily enough, the words Emma used, had a lot of barriers. He was very defended, but he wanted help with this thing, and he tried all kinds of other people and hadn't gotten anywhere. So he said, will you work with me on this? I said, sure. So I sat with him for like 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes he goes, you're the most disarming person I have ever met. It was because I wasn't trying to get anywhere with him. I wasn't trying to make anything happen. I knew where I was headed. But I didn't know how I was going to get there. So I had no sense that like with Emma, I could feel there was something getting in the way, but I didn't have any idea about what I should do about it or where. I'm like, oh, there's something getting in the way. Maybe I'll talk to these guys for a while and see what happens. Maybe I'll, but I'm never going to push against anything particularly, like unless I feel like it, but as a kind of policy. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, that's good enough for me. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. Birdie, how you doing?
Hi, Jamie. Hi, Emma. Hi, everyone in the room. I'm very well, thank you. How are you? I'm enjoying the conversation. I noticed that when you turned to the room and allowed Emma her moments on her own, what happened was she got covered in a golden light, and I could feel it was like clarity coming in, like all the fog had gone. And after that, I noticed that you didn't have to do or say very much to her once you returned. It's like job done.
Yeah.
And I've had quite a few occasions when that's happened to me with clients as well. I've not really had to say anything. It just comes in. The golden light comes in, and everything's clear. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful, and it makes perfect sense to me, Bertie. When I get to that very deep connected space with a client, that's typically the place where the good stuff's happening. So like, I might say something, but for the most of the time that we were sitting there, my instinct was just to shut my mouth. I'd already said plenty of stuff. It's just let her see what she needs to see. Now, funnily enough, if I do a 3-day intensive with a client, what we'll do is again and again, we'll have a session. We'll end up in that deep space. I'll maybe say a little bit or not, and then send them off for a walk or send them off to rest. Then do it again, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And same with working with a group. When we find that space, ideally I want to say, okay, now let's just go and have some time and just take it easy. So yeah, beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mei Ling.
Okay, my mind has gone blank, but the question is about the depth of connection that you both so suddenly, it seemed, dropped into. In me, I felt an uncomfortableness, and it seemed like, it's funny that you talk about the depth of connection made you feel nurtured and comfortable, and for me, it made me think, God, I feel really vulnerable in that space. And as a coach, I don't know what to do with that, because if my client felt vulnerable, that'd be fine. But me feeling vulnerable feels like, how do I be with that?
Well, I can tell you my take on it, and my sense of it is that, like another word that I would use to describe that space is intimacy. And if you are in an intimate space with someone, then it means you don't have an agenda. It means that no one's in control. It means you're present to whatever's emerging, okay? And my experience is to be profoundly impactful with my client, which really means just creating a transformational space where they can be impacted by the insights and realizations that are arising from within them. In order to do that, I need to kind of throw caution to the wind and release the need for control and allow whatever's going to happen to happen. Now, I'm still, as a coach, I still have a sense of direction, and I'm still taking a leadership role in the thing. I still have kind of responsibility for the overall experience in terms of the, you know, making sure that the chairs all work properly and that sort of thing, and that, you know, if something happens or my client gets upset or bothered or whatever, that I'm, you know, I'm in charge. Or they like in as much as someone's, you know, taking care of what's going on in the environment. But yeah, like this way of working with people is not a one-down approach. It's a peer-to-peer approach. It's a we're all in this together approach. And it's up to you, Mei-Ling. I can't say what you should do with that, but I know for me, when I first started having experiences of deep connection, I didn't know what to do with it. And I was like, well, like, maybe there's some value in this. How does it strike you as you?
Well, in the short time that you now know me, fear is a big thing. And it strikes me as terribly scary because...
Breathe, please. My only rule.
Yeah. Because I'm having insights of my own in that space. And I can't control those.
Yeah.
And who knows where it's going to go, and suddenly it's like, but this is a client-coach relationship, but it's not anymore.
Well, now that's where, like, to me anyway, my effectiveness as a coach is to, so my effectiveness as a coach is a function of my clarity of understanding and my clarity of thought and my depth of connection. But here's the thing, Mei-Ling, and this may help you out. Yes, it's my depth of connection to the other person, okay? But it's also your depth of connection to who you really are, your true self. And who you really are cannot be harmed or injured or damaged by anything at all, okay? Your physical body can. Like, definitely wear your seatbelt and look out for falling objects and that sort of thing. But your essence, your true nature, your true self is not vulnerable to anything in this world of form. It can't be hurt by anything in this world. There's also your connection to the intelligence of life, which is where the insights come from, is how you know what to do with your client, how you know what to ask, all that sort of stuff. So to me, yeah, it does mean being vulnerable, being intimate, opening yourself up to stuff, but that's where all the goodies come from, you know? So it's your call. Now, here's the thing. There are lots of methods of coaching and that sort of thing. You don't have to do profound transformational work with people. There's no rule that says, thou must do that. But it is a thing you can do if you want to. Like, I love doing this work with people. I feel like I feel like the luckiest guy in the world to be able to do this work. Okay, you know, it feels like an amazing blessing, a gift. It feels like a really good deal. But it doesn't mean you have to do it. It's up to you. Do whatever you like.
Just in the connection is not just to the other, but to yourself. You know, in that moment, the separation dropped away, and it's like, okay, all of that just came from that idea of being separate.
Yeah. Your separation from God, from love, is the hardest work in this world. But the good news is, you never separate. Beautiful. Thanks, Mei-Ling. Carolina, we'll take one more and then we're going to do something else. Go ahead, Carolina. Carolina or Carolina?
Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Lovely
Hello,
lovely to meet you face to face, so to speak.
Yes. Well, actually, it's a quick observation I had. I saw Emma leave in the room very confused, and she was like very contracted. And then she came in an hour and a half. She was completely another person. And well, I want to be able to do that in a future, in a near future. So
Anyone
I
else
think
want to be able to do that? Yeah.
everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could feel the connection between you two, and it was really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Carolina.
Yeah.
And
Oh, thank you.
what I can tell you is I didn't used to know how to do this. I didn't used to have eyes for this. I didn't used to know that there was value in that connection, the feeling of connection between you and your client, the connection to life. But once I started to clock onto it, once I started to see like, oh yeah, that's where the juice is, it was a total game changer. It was a total game changer, and
Yeah.
it's now like I kind of don't have words for how grateful I feel to be able to work in this way with people. It's very, very cool. It's very, very cool. Emma, thank you so much. Give Emma a big round. Anything else to add before we have a pause?
No, but just thank you.
We need the microphone if you're going to say it.
Just to say thank you, Jamie. I came in here this morning really quite scared, and I knew what I wanted, but I didn't really know how to get what I wanted. Is similar to you, Mei Ling. I just don't want that fear, and that connection, and that just give me the space to breathe, and the touching, the anchoring, that reassurance that it's okay. That's just had such a huge impact on me, and I feel pretty good actually now.
Beautiful. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.